Okay, so Ella, let's take you back to before you started your RNT journey. What were some of the series of moments that led to your initial trigger point where you realized that enough is enough, I need to make a change?
Yeah, look, well, my husband and I, we were trying to conceive. So we've been trying for a couple of years, but it was on and off, and he worked away offshore. So it was timing was a problem, but we were trying, and we were kind of just treading water, and it was just we weren't really going anywhere with it. So I think we went and did a trip to Italy, and we came back in hope that trip would relax us and it would happen, and then it didn't. So then we thought, so I came back and I was just a bit, I guess it was just getting wearing me down after a couple of years of trying. And we had no medical reason why. We did all the tests and there was no medical reason as to why, but it just wasn't happening. So yeah, I just really just needed a change really and something else to focus on. So that was my main reason to start RNT.
What made you think that you needed something to focus on in the physical realm? Like, what made you think, let me focus on my body, let me focus on my mind?
Well, I've always been pretty active, so I've always been quite an active person, but look, it would always be skipping from plan to plan. I never really had a consistent routine. So I would go, I'd go to the gym and then I would go to the gym and I'd start a workout, just depending on what I felt like that day. So I wouldn't really be seeing results. And it was something I always had liked doing, but I just didn't have a program as such. So I thought I think just being active and being such I guess, healthy lifestyle was a big part of my life anyway. And being with the whole fertility journey, I was trying to eat all the right things and not drink alcohol as much and do all the right things. So I think it was probably just the next step, just trying to clean up bit further if I could. So I think in a way as well, I was hoping that RNT could also help me with the fertility side in a way, but
Okay.
just clean things up a bit more.
What were some of the things you were trying over the years with regards to your fitness?
As in what I did at the gym or what
Yeah, just
workouts
like
I was doing.
Yeah, just like generally, what sort of things like were you trying, like Atkins, keto, carb cycling? Like, were you someone who was trying lots of different diets, or
Yeah, not so much diet because we're pretty big cooks. So we do love cooking. We love going to the farmers market and getting fresh food and cooking. So it was more I'd do different things. I would do, weight training with a trainer for a while. Then I would go do a F45, like the hit kind of class, and then I do my own thing. But I would always be consistent with doing a workout, but it would just be from a different program to different program, and
Mm.
none of the programs had any. I wouldn't track anything. So I think that was a big thing, not tracking things and having any progression. I would never see results. I would just always stay the same, I guess. But as for the diets, I did try when we were trying to fall pregnant, seed cycling and things like that, trying to eat certain seeds at certain times of the month. But all these things,
You're
some of
saying
them are just
seeds,
old wives.
seeds,
Yeah, seeds. Yeah. So
as in like
pumpkin
sunflower seed.
seeds.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They say you eat different seeds at certain times of the month. And I would try and incorporate, I'd read these things. I was trying quite a few things, but I'd read these things and try it. But yeah, no go.
And how did you feel during this whole period? So you've got the different plans you were jumping on and off, but you're also going through this fertility journey where you're trying to get pregnant, but for a couple of years wasn't happening. How are you feeling in that period? What was your mental state like?
Look, I think I was never, I think it was just more of a emotion. I guess it was more, I was never, I've never been depressed or anything like that, but I think it was more so I was just treading water, and it was just I just felt like the years were going on, the months were going on, I guess, and it went to a year, then a second year, and I hadn't gotten anywhere. So, and I felt like I was in the same spot, so it just I felt a bit stuck, I guess. So I thought something needed to change, which RNT 100% did that for me.
Okay, so let's talk about that then. How did the journey begin with RNT? What were some of the things that you thought, okay, this is different? These like solving some of the problems I was having before.
Well, I think probably having a plan to start with, which I didn't have. So I would just aimless. I'd always go for walks. I'd always go to the gym, but there was no plan and there was no tracking. So I think having the plan and also the accountability. So I really liked the weekly. I still do them, the weekly check-ins. So having the accountability, and I think because it was something new I was doing, I wanted to make sure I did everything to as well as I could. So especially at the beginning, I pretty much did everything to a T. And we had just actually gone into lockdown here, which was perfect timing for me. So I had no social distractions. So that was really good. And then we went to lockdown, and I think it was for about 6 weeks, and I just focused on doing the program. So pretty much my macros were on, everything was as well as I could do it, I thought. But and then I think then seeing the results, especially in the first 6 to 8 weeks, was giving me more encouragement, and it just was a different focus. It was a refreshing focus.
And what kind of results were you experiencing?
I definitely visually I could see the results. My weight was staying pretty similar at the beginning, so I was never so much overweight. It was just more my body composition that was changing, but my weight was staying pretty similar. And then I think seeing from week to week, I was surprised how different I would look through the pictures, and it was surprising. But also I definitely think I was just feeling better mentally because I wasn't focusing 100% on this fertility, which was such a big focus. I mean, I still was having down days about it, but I I figured out from RNT pretty early on the things that make me feel good. So going for a walk first thing in the morning, I'd write down my non-negotiables, and I found that every time I would derail from them, which was in the last 2 years only a handful of times, and I know those times because I remember them, because if I've missed a morning walk, which is so rare, but my day just is a different day. So I think from RNT I learned pretty early on the things which make me feel good, and I just kept them up because I feel so good from doing them.
Once you know what good feels like, you don't want to go back, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So talk about let's discuss the fertility angle, because it's quite an interesting one, because most people's impression when they're trying to get pregnant isn't to work on their nutrition and training and being more active, especially when there's so much conflicting advice in this area, which I'm sure you've been exposed to. My limited exposure to that sort of realm is very much like, you shouldn't be doing weight training at this point. You shouldn't be doing, whatever with the nutrition. What are some of the myths that you've busted here for yourself, and what are some of the advice that you got that worked well for you from a doctoral perspective?
Well, I think the frustrating part through this whole journey for me was everyone I spoke to. We saw quite a few doctors. We were getting told different things from every. I think we were getting told different things from a lot of different doctors. So I almost came to the conclusion that no one really knows, because in our instance, no one really did know. So I just thought whatever we can try, I'll try and do a different road. And as for the training, they did say to us, they did say to me from the start, the HIIT training, that was a consistent thing, that HIIT training wasn't so great for trying to fall pregnant. But look, I was doing 2 HIIT sessions a week, which prior to doing RNT, I was doing F45, which is, I don't know if you guys have that there, but it's like so that was far more strenuous on my body than what I was doing with RNT. And I found when I was doing that before, my technique was, so it was moving so quickly that I'd always be getting a sore back, or there'd be something that I'd be getting, not an injury from, but I wasn't feeling so great from doing those classes. So I think with the weight training with RNT, focusing on getting technique right, and actually I felt stronger, if anything. So I didn't feel like I felt like it was doing benefits to me rather than not doing than the opposite. So, but I do think I did come to the conclusion by the end of it that no one, because the amount of people that told us different things, and I don't think anyone really knew in our case, and I still don't even know what was wrong. So it just was what it was with us. I wish we had a reason why. It would have been easier for us if we actually could try and solve something and figure out what was going on. But it was just, like I said, a different focus. And I think, it was from being with RNT. Well, I can't put it down to that, but cleaning up my diet, and then actually, I think just being in a better headspace, not being so stressed and focused on it, was only benefiting me.
Yeah. What was the journey then? When did it click? When did it actually work? And then, talk us through that journey.
Yeah. So I was with RNT for about, I think, 6 or 7 months, and then actually did fall pregnant, which was super exciting, and we were really excited. And then unfortunately, a few months later, we had a miscarriage. Oh, sorry, a few weeks later, we had a miscarriage. But look, in a way, like RNT was definitely very helpful for me at that time, because it gave me, I mean, I was looking at the positives rather than the negatives, and I was emailing my coach about this, and he was really helpful about it, you know, rather than look, I mean, I always look at the glass half full. So but I felt with this instance, I was looking at it, I was just happy that we had fallen pregnant. So we were looking at it as a benefit. And then rather than derailing and just, you know, turning into getting exhausted and turning into an emotional wreck, I ended up just kind of, RNT was a bit of an anchor, and I just went straight back into, I think I had about half a week off, then went back into training and just regrouped, refocused. And I knew the things that made me feel good. And then that was, yeah, then just carried on for a few months. And then we did about 6 months of hormone injections, which were ovulation, trying to get me to ovulate, which the doctors thought that could have been an issue, but it ended up not being an issue. And we were about to do, so we did that for about 6 months, and then we were about to do IVF. And I thought, you know what, we'll take the plunge and do it. And we had already spent a lot of money and a lot of energy on it, and I was just a bit exhausted from doing all these months of hormones. So I said to my husband, let's take a month break. So we took a month break, and we still in this month did a tracking cycle where I was just getting my blood work done just to check that how my hormones were going, and it was just a natural cycle. And yeah, I remember it was the Friday afternoon, and I've had so many of these nurses call me, and every time they call me, they've got this kind of sad, you know, oh, look, we're just letting you know you're not pregnant. And the morning of, I almost didn't go and get the blood test because I was so busy at work and just thought, oh, it's the Groundhog Day, another blood test. I can't be bothered. I know it's not going to be pregnant. And then this nurse called me that afternoon. This was the month off that we were having before IVF, and she sounded very chirpy, and I thought that was really rude of her. I thought, that's so rude. You're so chirpy when you're going to tell me I'm not pregnant. And then she said, we've got your bloods and you're pregnant. And I was honestly gobsmacked and couldn't believe it, because it was a month of not trying, and we were just on the verge of doing the IVF. So it was refreshing. And then every single month since that, it's because I've been doing the tracking, but everything's been going well. And now it's nearly 7 months. So it's just, but I've trained throughout. I was a little bit at the beginning, I think for the first week or so, I was a bit reluctant with the training because of the miscarriage. And I thought, what do I do? But then I've spoken about it with my husband, and my coach as well. But I think by not training, I would have been in a bad headspace. And I spoke with the doctors, and they all said, prior to what you were doing before, you can continue to do. So I kept getting that advice. So I just thought, I'm just going to continue on with it, which I've had no issues at all. So I'm so pleased with that, because it's definitely helped me mentally. It just starts my day right. Like I said before, it's just really been a big game changer.
Awesome. So the pregnancy happened between the hormone injections and the IVF.
Yeah, on a natural cycle.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. It was. So 3 years later, but it happened. So it's good.
It happens when it happens, right?
That's right.
So with the training, talk us through the last 7 months with how you've trained, what exercise you've potentially removed, if any, what exercise you've been focusing on, because I think this is a big one where people can often just stop all exercise when they're pregnant, and then potentially stop even longer, and the next thing you know, you're 2 years later and you're in a bad place. So talk us through that, and also nutrition as well. But we'll start with training.
Yeah, sure. So with training, look, I've continued training. The first 12, or probably the first 14 weeks, I was quite nauseous, but in my head, I just knew if I didn't get my steps in on my training, I'd probably feel worse. So I think I probably had 2 days that I didn't do the sessions because I was just too nauseous. But every other day, I did drop my actual sessions down. So we cut back the load a fair bit. We took things out like the hip thrusts, and there's a few exercises that we took out. And then also we dropped the sets down. Some of them were 4 sets, and they dropped to 2 or 3 sets. And then with the weights, I wasn't progressively overloading them. So I was keeping them as the weight they were prior to being pregnant. If not, I'd drop them back maybe a few kilos, depending on what the exercise was. But I still did the step. The only thing I did drop at the beginning was the cardio, because I was just so nauseous. So I thought the cardio wasn't really working for me. But at about 13 weeks, I've resumed doing the cardio. And then also in the second trimester, I've been feeling really good. So I've pretty much just gone back to, I have been adding weights, but not as I was prior to being pregnant. So the weight increase isn't like what it used to be, but it's more so I'll increase a rep, or I'll make sure I really focus on tempo, which has been actually, I thought at first it was a bit of a mental struggle doing that, because I really love getting a good session and actually feeling like I've really pushed, but I'm only probably pushing to about 80% at the moment, which it just is, I guess it is what it is. And like my coach was saying to me, I mean, it's just this period, but I guess it's just a different phase at the moment. So, which also makes me excited for after the pregnancy to get back into training a bit harder. So I guess it's just making that a bit sweeter when that happens.
And have you maintained that motto and that focus throughout the 7 months so far? You know, with just lower loads, more reps potentially, better tempo. Has that just been the sort of consistent focus?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And then, I mean, my coach has been pretty amazing, actually. He's, you know, if I'm not feeling well, he says to me, you know, don't think you're being lazy, because that's the thing. I guess in my head, I feel like I've got to do this. I've got to get it done. But he says, you're not being lazy. You just have to accept where you're at the moment. But I think, yeah, the main thing was just I've taken the sessions back. But there's been some weeks where I felt so good, $1 million. So I've felt like normal, like I'm not even pregnant. So those weeks I've just been utilizing them and just making sure I try and get the most out of my training, because not so much for the aesthetic side, but more just for how I feel, because I do feel so good when I get really good sessions out. So
how have you balancing the nutrition with it all?
The nutrition at the beginning, I did struggle because I was feeling a little bit sick. So I had to take I kept my calories around the same. I increased the carbs and dropped the protein a little bit. I was struck with all the food that I usually eat. So the chicken and the fish, and the vegetables, which is what I love. I couldn't stomach them. So I pretty much was just tailoring the meal. I was tailoring it as close as I could around the adjusted macros, but keeping the calories the same. So we did increase the carbs, but now the carbs have dropped back a bit. Now I'm back on to about 12 weeks. When I was 12 weeks pregnant, I kind of got back on fish again and chicken, but it was a bit challenging trying to eat them because of just the food. I've never experienced food aversions like that, because I love every food. There's no food I don't like, but just the smell, even when my husband was cooking, we have a rice cooker that he loves, and he was cooking rice, and he had to cook it outside because I'd come home from work and the smell of the rice was just, so there were so many things which are just weird things, but I guess it's just part of it.
Going into the pregnancy, were you on maintenance calories? Like, were you on like investment calories? Like, what sort of setup did you have?
Yeah, so I was on about 1,800 calories. So I was maintenance. I was pretty satisfied with that as well. So I was about 180 grams carbs, 60 grams fat, and then I think 120 protein. So we just increased the carbs a bit and dropped the protein to about 100. So I was having a lot of protein. I was having more protein shakes, and I could have eggs. Eggs were okay, but yeah, it was just the chicken and the fish that I would struggle with. But yeah, I guess it was not that long, but I was actually doing a lot of protein yogurts at that time, which I hate the protein yogurts. I really don't like them, but but at that time I did. So now I'm glad to be back on the chicken and fish.
Have you stayed the same with your nutrition? Is that been quite steady? Have you adjusted it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. So it's still around 1,800. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Yeah, my coach has suggested that there might be a point that we want to increase now that I'm going into the third trimester, but I'm pretty satisfied with it. So I'm not feeling like I'm that hungry. I do have hungrier weeks, I guess, but or hungrier days, sorry. But yeah, 1800 is pretty good for me.
Yeah, and you found the benefits of actually eating well, because again, this is another myth where the whole you eat for two people now. I don't know if it still
Yeah,
goes around, but you still see it, right? So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm definitely not eating for two, that's for sure.
do doctors still
Yeah.
not advise that? Doctors still talk about that as something
No,
to
and
be
it
doing, or
no, my doctor's been really great actually, because I said to her, because I've had a few people comment, because I'm not showing a lot, and a few people have said to me, is your baby to size, is it the right size? And every time I go to the doctor, and because I haven't put on a lot of weight, and my doctor says we don't go by weight anymore. She said, you can't go by weight because everyone's different, but
Mm.
she said through her pregnancy she put on 7 kilos. So every pregnancy is different, but yeah, she said, look, everything's measuring to size, but I think you don't need to put on 20, 25 kilos. Everyone is different, I guess, but yeah, I think they're a bit more relaxed about it now, because she hasn't told me to increase calories, and she actually doesn't weigh me at all, which is really good.
Yeah, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So before you got pregnant and just sort of at the start of the journey, you didn't have a necessary aesthetic focus, right? You didn't come here to lose a lot of weight. Your focus was much more on having a new focus essentially, and diving into something you'd had different experiences in. How did you stay motivated in that period, and how have you made it into a way of life? Because for many, it always starts with a potential body weight loss focus and then evolves
Yeah.
afterwards. Your journey's been a little bit different. If you take away the pregnancy element to it, how's that been for you?
Well, I think because there have been some days that I can't be bothered, and I actually do have a little quote in my phone, just reminding me on those days I do read it, just of how good I feel after. I'm not doing the sessions for how I look, but it's how good I feel after the sessions, and how my day, it really does affect the rest of my day. So I think figuring that out from the beginning, that's probably what motivates me. I'm actually still doing my workouts in my home gym, believe it or not, because I went to the gym for years, but I just love, it's my time, and I just love having that time in the gym to focus on it. And I don't actually think I'll go back to an actual gym. I've ended up building my gym out the back bigger and
Wow.
bigger. And
Yeah.
I love it now, but I couldn't imagine going back to the gym. And just sometimes I did find when I was at the actual gym, there was a lot of small talk and, talking to people and the workouts. But now I find this is my time to just focus on my workout, put my music on, and it just sets my day up. So I think, back to your question, I think, yeah, just knowing how it affects the rest of my day. And then when I do sometimes need that reminder. So when I need it, I just read the little quote that I wrote in my phone, and then I've never felt worse after a workout. So I think that's probably my motivation. I mean, I did notice, I did definitely have noticed my body composition changed, and that was amazing to see the physical changes, which I couldn't do that on my own because I wasn't tracking anything and I wasn't progressing. I was just staying the same for years and years and just maintaining. But that was amazing. But then yeah, I guess seeing when that kind of leveled out and everything, I've just consistently been this same body composition. I think the motivation has just been how it affects the rest of my day.
Yeah. And when do you typically, are you a morning person when you train?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I do my walk in the morning, come home, I have a snack, and then before pregnancy I wasn't, but now I have a snack just so I've got something in my stomach. It depends on the day and the time I can train, but yeah, then I do my sessions generally in the morning.
Cool. And why, for the women listening, especially, why is strength training and focusing on performance so important for you and just for in general? Why should more people women embrace it?
Look, each their own, but I find that I don't have any from doing the classes that I used to do with all the F45s and the jumping around. I mean, my body itself feels so much stronger, and I don't have the injuries like I used to get, and I don't feel that. It's a different type of fatigue. The fatigue I feel, or the soreness I feel after doing a weight session is very different to the soreness I would feel after doing a HIIT 40 and a 45 class or a HIIT class. But also I think, you know, you don't get big. I mean, doing weight training, you feel strong and you feel, I really get off from when I've had a really great workout and then I've increased either reps or weights, and it really does just, yeah, it changes actually my whole day. Because I mean, I've got a lot of girlfriends, and I know a lot of my girlfriends probably aren't doing workouts what I'm doing, but I quite like that. I feel like, yeah, I quite like that I'm doing something different to everyone else as well. But I think it's definitely a good thing once you start doing it. I love it so much. I don't think I'll ever stop doing it, to be honest.
When you speak to your girlfriends, what sort of blockers do they have against weight training for those who do exercise regularly?
Well, look, a lot of my girlfriends here, they do Pilates and things like that. So it's definitely a lot. I think with the weight training, they do have that image in their head they're going to get bulky, which they're not, but they do have that image. But I guess the weight training ties in as well with the diet. So I don't think a lot of my girlfriends don't have the will to kind of do the two together. So they would rather, I guess it was what I was doing before as well, you know, that I had no idea about I would eat healthy, but macros, I didn't, you know, now I look at meals completely differently. So I can look at a plate and I know that I need to get a bit more protein because I haven't had that much at lunch. And now if I had to, I could probably do it by eye rather than having to put it into my app. But I think it's just it's each to their own, but I think everybody's different, but I don't think, I think everybody's different.
Yeah, absolutely. So after the pregnancy, once you get yourself normalized and stable, what are your goals with your physique and your body and your training, etc.? Have you got some goals you've set yourself, and what does your future investment phase look like for you?
Yeah, sure. I hope after the pregnancy, it depends on how the birth goes, but I hope I don't have to take too long off. So I guess, I'm hoping I'll take maybe a month or 6 weeks off max. And then I'm excited to just actually get that feeling, I guess, those endorphins of actually feeling like I've really pushed myself. That's more so, obviously I'm sure I definitely feel my body's gotten, even this far, I'm 7 months in now, and it's gotten a lot softer. So I'm looking forward to feeling a lot tightening myself up a bit and just kind of getting back into the shape I was pre-pregnancy. But I do think, having a bit more, which I was speaking to my coach about, I have learned from this pregnancy about being satiated. I definitely feel like I'm a lot through the pregnancy. I've probably been a little bit more lenient than I have prior to being pregnant. Just I've listened to my body a bit more, but I think taking that on board for after the pregnancy and actually not always being so controlled and so strict, because life is about balance. So being able to have that a bit more balance. I think I was very focused on every meal to the gram before, but now I've definitely got a bit of a better handle on eyeing things. And I think it's obviously over time, but I think just having a bit more flexibility for after the pregnancy with the diet will be nice as
Yeah.
well, but then still seeing results at the same time.
Well, a lot of that comes down to nutritional education, and I know you're a
That's
big fan
right.
of the education that we put out in the group. What have been some of the biggest lessons you've picked up and thought, oh, that's really changed, that's moved the needle forward for me?
Look, I think for me, probably one thing is olive oil, to be honest. Olive oil olive oil was something that I definitely was a lot heavier handed with before. And it's I don't miss it at all. You know, now I love the spray olive oil, but I think I didn't realize I'd be adding, 200 calories to a meal just by putting olive oil on salad dressing, or, have this big bowl of fresh vegetables, but then put too much olive oil. So I think that's probably one of my biggest takeaways, and just realizing, I guess it's the little things do matter, and the little things matter, but they don't make a difference to your meal as such. So I mean, I don't miss the olive oil. Having a spray of my spray olive oil tastes no different really for when I'm cooking chicken rather, as opposed to pouring all this olive oil into the pan. So I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I've learned.
Any other significant ones?
I'm trying to think with God, I can't, I'm sure more will come to me later. Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, cool. So you've discussed what your aim is physically afterwards. You've gone through the fertility element. I'd love to know more about how the physical has been the vehicle for you. How have you really used this journey to achieve things you didn't think were possible?
Yeah, sure. I think the physical's been the vehicle. Basically just figuring out what my non-negotiables were. And then once I figured those out and found, I guess, the sweet spot, I think that probably yeah, I feel like that's probably the way the physical's been the vehicle for me. I think yeah, I definitely think it's probably, I think knowing what works for me. Like before I knew the things that I liked, but now I definitely feel like I've got a much better handle on yeah, I think I've got put boundaries up, and I know the things that I like to do and how I like to run my life. With before it was just all it was just all over the place. I think now I've definitely got a lot more control of my day as well, and how yeah, how my day goes. And I know if I've had I even notice if I've had a workout which isn't one of my better workouts, then my day is a different day from if I've had a smashed a really good workout and feel really good from the morning. So I think the physical is just a vehicle for me for how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of those boundaries,
Mm.
what sort of boundaries have you noticed and you put up that you set yourself like, I'm not doing that?
Look, it's probably social things. I'm pretty, yeah, it's probably social things. I used to say yes to things that I didn't really want to do, but I think now if I don't want to do them, I mean, I do love to catch up with people for walks, and if people don't want to if my friends don't want to do walks with me, I don't want to go out for dinner, because the dinner's going out for dinners. If I don't want to go to it, I do love going out for dinners, but if it's not it's a real treat for me, and I guess if it's not to a dinner that I'm wanting to go to, now I just say no. Unless it's with my husband, it's a restaurant I've been really wanting to try or something like that. So I think putting those boundaries up, where before I would just do it, and then the next day be remorseful because I've gone and eaten and drank all this food that I didn't even really want to eat. So I think those boundaries, since I've started RNT, I'm definitely more selective with what I do.
Well, that's a very difficult thing. And a lot of people struggle with saying no to, especially with socials, but even just sort of auditing your circles. Give us some like lines that you're using to say no to people, and like how are you doing this? Because it's one thing to say it and another thing to actually do it. So
Yeah, look, I
the
think
listeners.
look, I think my friends kind of expected of me now, to be honest. It's not probably not a good thing, but they now just expect that we're doing a walk, or which, I mean, a lot of my girlfriends love to go for walks, so that's not a problem. But look, I definitely have no issue saying no. I actually had a girlfriend the other week, we were talking about it, and she said that that's a trait she actually likes about me, that I can say no, because she still says yes to people. So she said, I like that you can actually say no if you don't want to do something. But it has taken a while to get there, though, because you want to people please, and you want to go to these things or have a glass of wine, which leads into a second glass of wine, and then before you know it, the next day you have remorse.
Yeah, it's a really. I think it's the first time that's the hardest one. Once you've kind of done it a few times, you get that practice and you get that confidence that the end of the world is not happening, and
Yeah,
they probably like you more
and
for it.
people get used to it, I think, and then yeah, they stop obviously. Not, they stop saying have another drink or have a drink, because I know you don't feel like having a drink, which I love to have a glass of wine, but I just select the times I want to do it now, rather than just doing it all the time, or doing it every time I feel like I have to do it.
Absolutely. If you're speaking to a listener now who's at the start of their RNT journey, and you were to give them one tip to make their journey more successful, what would it be?
I think probably take advantage of your coach, because every time I email my coach, I sometimes the questions I at the beginning especially I felt was silly questions, but I think just taking advantage and asking all the questions and learning as much as you can. And then the more knowledge you have, the better you'll perform. So I think, yeah, just taking advantage of a coach, that's what they're there for. Because I think I found that having a coach and having that accountability, I mean, they're not going to tell you off. I mean, they're there to help you. So I think that's probably been the biggest thing. Just sometimes I find that my check-ins are probably too long because I'm asking too many questions, but I honestly love reading them back on the following day when I read it, and it does almost give me inspiration for that week to come as well. It gives you motivation for the week to come when you get the answers, and just having that support as well is probably one of the biggest things, and just utilizing that.
Yeah, being able to ask questions, and yeah, just that it comes back to the education. So it might be a nice time to circle back to the nutritional education question you told me to ask you
Yeah.
about later on.
Yes. Well, yeah. I did think. Well, I did think prior to RNT, one thing that I would definitely do is I do know I would actually go out to restaurants, which I love going out to a restaurant and going and wining and dining. But then rather than getting back on track the following meal or the following day, it would snowball into days and days of just sloppy eating. So it would be, if I would go out for dinner on a Friday night, then the weekend would snowball. But I think from RNT, one of the things I've learned is just to, I've done this, I've gone out, had a couple of wines, had dinner, but then the next day I'm back on my plan. So I think that's probably a huge thing, which I definitely didn't do that before RNT.
Yeah, yeah. The snowball is the sort of sneaky thing that catches up on you.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome. So Ella, thanks so much for sharing your story. Is there any final words you've got for the listeners?
No, look, I think RNT is definitely one of the best things that I've done. And I would recommend it to anyone, but I just think, taking as much information as you can in, and I'm just so glad I actually made the move and did RNT, because I can't see myself not doing it, to be honest.
Amazing.